Okay, welcome everybody to the 20th Cash Health Teaching Workshop. I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and today the subject material will be the small intestine, the way of AC to DC, and vice versa. And we'll have Dr. Elia Kostova of the Spaceship Institute will be describing to us the anatomy of the small intestine. And after that, Mr. Kesh will give his talk on the plasmatic aspects of the small intestine, how it interacts with our body. Okay, I think we'll just get right into the workshop here and allow Dr. Elia to describe to us some of the inner secrets of the small intestine. Are you there, Elia? Hello, we're not hearing you yet. Elia, is the microphone on there? I'm not able to hear you, Elia. Hello, Elia. Let me see if... Hello, Elia. Can you try again? All right. Can someone else give me a sound check from these?
I'm here.
Okay, thanks. That works.
I don't see Elliot typing or anything, but she's still on the call, so I'm not sure what's just happening there.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That works.
Okay, she's typing. Elliot, you might need to drop out and come back in, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. We hear you. Yay.
Okay.
It must have been that AC/DC that threw us off in the start there. It's a little too heavy for everyone.
The workshop is so powerful. AC/DC, everyone of you, I know, guys, you like this band. So today we follow with AC/DC in our body. And actually, Eastern Distract 2 is like the famous song of this band. And we start with the small intestines, the main converter of AC to DC, and vice versa. And our small intestines, they place in the abdomen cavity, how you know, and then belongs to the star formation inside of abdomen cavity. This is the first slide, yes. And their nano-coated vibe in this star formation. Between the star formation, it's organized between the liver, stomach, spleen, output system, pancreas, and the end of the large intestines. Actually, the small intestines, they are nano-coated vibe inside of that star formation. And the vector of movement of that star formation, what we call the BZ, is faced up to right to left, and most movement inside of that star formation, how you saw in the previous workshop, they're also turning, spinning on the direction of right to left. Okay, and then we go to the next one slide. The next one slide is embryology of our small intestines. They origin from the mid gut of embryo. And if you remember from the previous workshop, of the same gut is come from our stomach, but from higher gut. Our small intestines come from the mid gut. And from the beginning, and how you see, they starts to make some kind of loops all the time. Actually, that nano-coated vibe all the time make a loop inside of our abdomen cavity from the beginning. And that loop is actually also spinning and twisting in the same direction, right to left, but in different angles regarding the place of the small intestines, because also they have different kind of levels inside of abdomen cavity. Actually, our small intestines, their longitudinous is more than 6-7 meters in the adult individual. So can you imagine how much loops they made inside of your abdomen cavity? Even from beginning, they start with loop, and all the time they twist and make additional loops inside of abdomen cavity. And also don't forget they are nano coated itself. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation exactly the way of spinning of our small intestines. After the stomach starts the duodenum. This is the first part of our small intestine, and actually the duodenum starts after the pyloric sphincter, the pyloric muscle pump, which close the stomach. And when the food like is already in liquid state go out from the stomach, the pylor pump, the pylor sphincter just close. And after that, the liquid state of matter go inside of our small intestine. The fourth place is duodenum. In duodenum area, the bile juice and the pancreas juice just come inside of the wall of the intestines, and they suppose the absorption and digestion, like a chemical state of the liquid state of matter. And how you see after the duodenum, the shape of our small intestines, they are so similar to the shape of snake from the beginning to the end. In anatomical language, we separate different level of the small intestines with different names because more or less they have different structure inside of epithelium. And this is not by consequence. Uh, you will see during the explanation of the workshop why we have different kind of epithelium, different kind of representation of that epithelium through the longitudinous of our small intestines. So beginning is our duodenum, then we have the part of ileum, and then ileum. After ileum starts the large intestines. And actually the shape of our intestines, they're like a snake itself, but also like a spiral. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is this representation more schematic, the way of how our small intestine just turning and make specific shape inside of our abdomen cavity. How you see the shape is similar to the shape of hemispheres of our brain, and also the shape of the new one small reactor device what Armen made. Exactly, if you compare the left and right side of that slide, you see that the coil inside of the reactor of Armen is like our intestines, and the large intestine is the outer core of the Armen reactor. So if we take a large picture of all abdomen cavity with large and small intestines, they represent itself the conversion of the AC to DC and vice versa. Also, we have the same repetitive model inside of the wall of the small end of the large intestines, but inside of the shape of the abdomen, repetitive model of the reactor, new one of the Armen, is its configuration of the small intestines, how they make a shape and loops like a snake and like a
Excuse me,
coil.
Elia,
Yes.
can you slow down a bit? You're going too fast.
Okay, sir. Yeah, no problem.
Please slow down. We can't catch up.
Okay, no problem, sir. Okay, so exactly, I will repeat myself a little slowly. Inside of the abdomen area, repetitive model of the neuron reactor of Armen is the shape of the small intestines, and how you see around them goes the large intestines. So inside, this is the coil of the Armen neuron reactor, and outside, this is the large intestine. What is the cylinder of the Armen reactor? Actually, in the large point of view, this is the again repetitive model of the transformation of AC to DC. Now, the same model we have inside of the wall of our small intestines. Okay, we go ahead with the next one slide. The next one slide is the cross section of our intestines and the longitudinal section. How you see, there are nano-coated tubes with different kind of layers. We have again repetitive model with layering on the wall with the connective tissue, different kind of direction of the muscle layers. Then we have epithelium and the layer of the vessels and nerves. And inside what you see on the left corner, this is the flow of the liquid state of matter. The cross section, you see again the repetitive model of the picture of principal matter, transitional matter, and the outer core of the main picture of Mr. Cash and the representation of different state of matter. This is a repetitive model all over our body. And also how you see on the left side, on the cross section of the intestines, inside epithelium make different kind of shapes. And also this is regarding the epithelium cells and the different kind of shapes of the small structure of the wall of epithelium of the wall. This is the villi. Actually, during our intestines, we have different shape of villas. And the villas, this is the absorption place where all the nutritions go inside of the wall of small intestines. From the beginning, from duodenum to the end of the small intestines, also we have different diameter of the small intestines and ability of them to make different kind of shapes during the peristaltic wave. Okay, so we have nano-coated vibe, our small intestines, and this nano-coated vibe have all the layers of the state of matter, and also they are able to make different kind of shapes during the peristaltic wave. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a more schematic view, and I thanks a lot to one of the followers of Cash Foundation, but actually the more technical pictures is from him, and he made before years. So I asked him to use because they're so good representation of the layering of the wall of intestines. How you see the first one comparison. This is the picture of the different layers inside of the wall, like a long section of the small intestines vibe. And on the more technical point of view, you see how even the Each layer is containing different layering inside, how he represent in his 3D model of layering. On the right side, you see the cross-section of the small intestines, and how you remember from the previous workshop, we have a vortex movement inside of our small intestine, exactly how the black hole do and suck the energy inside. We have the same movement inside of our intestines and make inside of them the movement of the state of matter in vortex from top to the bottom. And actually, again, so good is representation 3D model of the same author. How you see, if you compare the picture of the small intestines, they represent only the hole inside of the small intestines. But if you put in mind that that wall of the small intestine is also nano-layering, this is the same representation that like his 3D model of the layering like a hole. I just make that comparison to be more easy for you, like technical minds, to understand how our body have the same structure of layering and to make a vortex, same repetitive model. And if you remember the previous workshop, we compare the working of our digestive system like a black hole and gaining the gravity inside. So today we'll be make slightly different analogy for our small intestines and different kind of movement inside of nature. Okay, then we go to the next slide. This is actually two videos. They are 3D models of different kind of movement of matter. The first one video, this is a representation actually of movement of snake. But how you see, this is the long movement through the vector of longitudinous, the movement around the center like a spiral. The same movement have our DNA. Also the same movement have our intestines. If you compare the tupi inside of that shape, this is the our villa inside of our intestines. And when they move, they make that kind of vortex movement inside of the whole of the small intestine. This is the one part of the movement. Second one, this is the second video. This is the infinitive model of representation of movement with 64 parts. And how you see this 3D model, what kind of shape will reach finally. Okay, yeah, this is the shape like close to the vortex, just beginning to organize the vortex, and then you close the vortex, the beginning of spiral and the end of the spiral. And if you remember from the previous slide, you saw that the whole inside of our intestines have the same shape like a spiral, which is start from the beginning from our esophagus and will end actually to the end of our large intestines. But it is the same repetitive model in our small intestines. So we have in the wall of our intestines different kind of directions of movement during the two different vectors. And if you remember where our BZ face in that star formation, you will be not surprised why we have that kind of movement inside of wall of our intestines. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is just two videos of the peristaltic wave inside of our digestive system. The first one is the modeling of that peristaltic wave. So actually the peristaltic waves start from our pharynx. If you remember the previous workshop, they begin through our esophagus, then stomach, then duodenum, small intestines, large, and to the end. Just notice how the movement of the wall just go on. Part by part, you have the wideness and the narrowness of the wall. And if you remember when we spoke, we need that because it makes gradient between two parts. And after our explanation go on, you will understand why. Okay, on the right video, this is the natural view of the peristaltic wave inside of our intestines during the operation. Yeah, this is still the 3D modeling. On the right side video, this is the real video of the peristaltic wave inside of our intestines. And how you see, they have specific movement. And if you compare that movement with the movement of snake, this is completely the same. So that comparison you are able to see in the next slide with the 3 videos of the movement of snake. Actually, our intestines represent the movement of snake because the locomotion of snake is actually so complicated. This is not that much simple how we think. The first video is the real snake and how this real snake just move. How you see this is the slightly sliding on the surface, but actually this is sliding, it is not sliding. You will understand in the 3D model videos. This is because of some other mechanism. Because if you put the snake in the completely flat surface or to put liquid in that surface, she will be not able to move that like that. Okay, this is the 3D model of the move of snake. And if you compare with the previous video, you have the same movement in our intestines, completely the same. And how you see, one part of the snake touch the surface, other one is so far away. This is actually, if we compare with other modeling of the cave technology, this is like you gain the gravity, gap, you gain the gravity, gap. Where you touch, where the snake touch the surface, it is gaining the gravity. It is heavy place, so touching the surface. Where it is far away from the surface, this is the gap. So what does mean? Where you have one cell to gain the gravity, and other way, and other one, next one, gap, where actually gain the repulsion magnetism. And that's why you are able to have a vector of currency between the gravity and repulsion, like two next cells to each other. In the same way, the snake move. In one place where the snake gain the gravity inside of the body, touching the surface. The next one, how you see, this is completely opposite movement. This is nothing, empty place, not touching the surface. The same way our intestines move. Okay, and when you see the video with the 5 snakes inside, this is like several loops of our intestines, how they move all the time. This is not only one part of our intestines moving. They move all the time. There are 7 meters, and all these 7 meters, they move. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is actually representation of shape of snake and how the snake is able to move, and also have a kind of snake, they're able to fly, and have a snake, they're able to swim, and how it's possible if they have the same shape and that shape support them to move on the solid superface, and how they change the shape to be able to swim and to be able to fly also. And how you see in the middle of that slide, the shape of our intestines, they are like a snake. And also when the passages of liquid state of matter pass through all the shape and all the longitudinous of our intestines, actually in some particular places we gain the gravity, we gain the matter, the same way how the snake move. Also you see the snake are able, because of the shape of the ribs, to change the cross section of the body. And when the snake change the cross section of the body, that shape, regarding that shape, she is able to pass through different state of matter. So she is able to pass through air, and also she is able to pass through water. This is only because she is able to change the cross section, the shape of her body. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is this video representation, actually, how a snake is able to fly.
There are 5 species of snakes in the Malaysian jungles that are able to transform their skeletons to glide through the air. A study has revealed exactly how these gliding snakes contort their bodies to cover a great deal of ground. When it leaps off a high tree branch, it rotates its ribs forwards and upwards, making its body double in width. This transforms it into a much flatter, aerodynamic shape similar to an airplane wing. It moves its head back and forth, which passes waves down its body like it's swimming in air. Professor Jake Sosha carried out the study by creating a plastic copy of the snake's cross-section and placed it in a tank of flowing water and gathered data on the way the water moves around it using lasers and high-speed cameras.
Okay, and how you see, saw during that video, what they say that when the snake changes shape, and how you saw the previous slide, exactly the shape is of the star formation, when from the round shape become like a shape of star formation. And then the snake is able to move during the air because she changed the gravity in different place during her body, change the mass. So what she done actually, she make a gapping between the mass, gravity, and the repulsion, magnetism. And because she is able to do that, because she's changing the shape of the body, she is able to pass to different kind of matter. So what does mean? She is able to transform AC to DC and vice versa, and in simultaneously time. And from the next one slide, it's visible for you the movement of snake, how she's moved, why she is moved. On the right side, you see all the pictures. What you see, this is the movement inside of our intestines, how our intestines are able to make a contraction. So what does it mean to make a contraction? To put inside the force. So it means to take the AC and to convert that AC to movement. And why we need that movement? To push to the next part the liquid state of matter what we have inside of our body. And actually what we do with that making of the contraction and relaxation area one after another, we make the same thing. We make gapping between the action and relax, action and relax. When we contract some kind of area, what we do? We gain gravity. when we relax, what we do? We just make sure that the next one will be movement. So during the gapping, we have a relaxation point. It is like how Mr. Cash that has that kind of explanation, fishing tank, we collect. And then that fishing tank starts to react. So DC become a AC and vice versa. Even during the analysis of the movement of our intestines, we convert AC to DC all the time. And because of that, our intestines are able to move and probably to fly in the same manner. Because how you see, snake is sustainable itself, so she is able to pass through different kind of state of matter. Actually, our intestines, they contain not only liquid state of matter, they contain also the gas state of matter. And during the absorption, they convert that state of matter to the gas, and then vice versa. So actually our intestines, they are able, because of that conversion of AC to DC, even to the wall, to be able to pass through different kind of state of matter. And actually on the right corner of that slide, it is a representation of the several peristaltic wave, and you see how actually happened the gapping. Gap, relax, is mean you have contraction, then relaxation. Contraction, relaxation. During the contraction, you increase, you initiate the AC, and during the relaxation, you collect the DC. So actually in the borderline between the contraction area and the relaxation area, you convert AC to DC and vice versa. In that borderline between two states of the movement inside of the wall of the small intestines. Okay, then we go to the next slide. How everything is happened inside of the epithelium of our small intestines. That slide represents to you different kind of villi. Villi, this is the invagination of epithelium inside of the small intestines. On the left side, you see different shape of villi, what we have inside of the intestines. On the right side, you see different kind of shapes of coral. Actually, the villi and representation of the shape of villi is so similar to the different shape of coral. Even they have a same structure to absorb the matter inside. We have conical villi like a shape, and also we have the shape of villi like a like a tongue. And it is interesting to know that the shape of tongue villi, this is from the beginning of our intestines. And how you know whatever we have the shape of tongue is related like a shortcut to our thalamus. And actually, in the Chinese medicine, the small intestines, they belongs to the meridian of heart. They are like a yang hotness, and the heart meridian is the yin hotness. And how you see, and I repeated to you in the previous workshop, the tongue inside of our mouth is the sensor organ of our heart. So even from the beginning of our intestines, we have a tongue-shaped villi. This is the absorption point, the receptor point in epithelium of the small intestines. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Actually, that's why mostly in East, everyone say that what you eat, that kind of emotions you produce. See, even nature give us science that this is exactly like that. That slide represented to you anatomical structure inside of intestines, epithelium, and the structure of villi. Actually, the villi, this is the main structure inside of the small intestines is covered from epithelium, different kind of cells. And not only villi have different shape, also the different epithelium cells have different shape during the all direction of the small intestines. And why it's happen like that? Because the cells, they are main point for absorption the state of matter, and when you have the specific shape, attract the specific matter to absorption to that cell. We are able to have like more cubical cells, like more plate cells, and because of different shapes of the cells on that part of the small intestines, we absorb specific nutrients inside. And if we speak about the more deep state of matter, is mean that in different part of our intestines we accept different gases, because even from the shape of cells, we are able to recognize which kind of gans that cells is able to accept and to convert. In the cross section of the villi, you see this is like invaginations, like a cylindrical shape. Inside, you have again repetitive model of different state of matter. If you see, this is so similar, like a cylindrical shape of reactor. Outside, you have a core, then you have a gap where it is actually the passing through the nutrients from the cells to the circulation. In the middle, in the green, this is your lymph vessel. And around, like a head, around the lymph vessel, this is a circulatory system representing from artery and vein part. And why we need to have the lymph system inside of the artery and blood vessels, actually, like, and they cover the lymph vessel like a head. It is because the lymph vessel accept only fat from the cells. And what is here the fat? This is the CO2, this is the carbon. And how you see in the middle, we have a more acceptable point from the CO2 for the carbons, and around we have a blood from artery part and from vein part. And how you know? Artery, the blood is connection for us for emotional part of the brain. And inside we have a lymph cell which contain the CO2. Okay, this is exactly a representation model for our CO2 kit. This is constructed in the same way. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation of absorption of different nutrients inside of our intestines. How you see on the left part of that slide, different kind of nutrients we are able to accept in different part of small intestines. And how I told you, this is because we have different shape of villi and different shape of our cells, which actually represent what kind of material we are able to take in. So on the right side, this is the cells, and you see through the lumen of the intestines, in the small intestines, we accept amino acid, carbohydrates, fats, and also minerals. And fats, they go directly to the lymphatic system, to the lymphatic capillaries, and the carbohydrates and the proteins, they go inside of the blood capillary. Even inside of the cells, we have already separation of the materials. They are not go all together because they have different meaning and different structure, and they're useful for different things. And how you know? On the top of your CO2 kits, you absorb and you are able to collect what? Proteins and fat. It is because of that. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is the representation, how actually which kind of minerals and ions we take inside of the intestines wall. Here on the left side is a representation of the natrium. It is sodium hydrogen pump. So for one sodium go inside, we take out the energy of the hydrogen, and the chlorine exchange with the bicarbonate. Inside of the cell, we have the same reaction for the bicarbonates and the bicarbonate acid, the same what we have inside of the lung and inside of the cell of the lung and inside of the kidney and the stomach wall. Actually, CO2 is the triggering system for most of the pump of exchanging the ions inside of our cells. Whatever ions exchange in different parts of cells in our body, that representation of that chemical reaction of the carbolic acid ever is presented. On the left side, you also see that we exchange the ions between the lumen of the small intestines. So it means that we already make the currents between the lumen of the intestines and inside of the cells. Also, we have a pump function between the cells. And how you see, this is called the pumping system of the potassium and the sodium with connection with the next one cell. And this is releasing of the phosphorus, organic phosphor. So what does mean? When we convert the AC to DC, we inform the next one cell what we done already with that cell. But also we have a fingerprint to our DNA with this organic phosphor. So actually, because we have this gradient between the potassium and sodium between two cells, we get the peristaltic wave during all the wall of intestines. So how you see, you convert the AC to DC inside of the cell, but also between two next cells. And actually in the borderline between the two cells. In the middle of that slide is a representation what is happening with water inside of our small intestines, and how you see the water is so connected with potassium. Whatever sodium, natrium we have, and the concentration of sodium, that much we accept or not accept water. And because of that, we get different kind of state of our intestine, like we have a liquid stool or we have a normal stool, and of them pH. This is the connection between the water and the sodium. Just remember that picture, because the next slide you'll see why this is important. And to not forget that water is connected with natrium, sodium, but natrium is connected with hydrogen. And also hydrogen is connected with the carbolic acid pump, and how much is able to produce the hydrogen or to dissolve to the CO2. Just remember that, and then you see why I just point your attention on that slide. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is its representation how actually the tree works, and what is the comparison between the tree and the wall of our intestines. Please put your
Sometimes the
attention on
simplest
that
questions
video.
have the most amazing answers. Like, how can trees be so tall? It's a question that doesn't even seem like it needs an answer. Trees just are tall. Some of them are over 100 meters. Why should there be a height limit? I'll tell you why. Trees need to transport water from their roots up into their topmost branches in order to survive. And that is no trivial task. There is a limit to the height that water can be sucked up a tube. It's 10 meters. If you suck on a long vertical straw, the water will go no higher than 10 meters. At this point, there will be a perfect vacuum at the top of the straw, and the water will start to boil spontaneously. For a tree to raise water 100 meters, it would have to create a pressure difference of 10 atmospheres. How would trees do that? When I posed this conundrum, a lot of people said the answer is transpiration. And that's when water evaporates from the leaf, pulling up the water molecules behind it. Now that's clearly a mechanism a tree can use to create suction, but it doesn't help us overcome this 10-meter limit.
The lowest the pressure can go is a pure vacuum, which I imagine is not happening inside of tree leaves. Right?
Right, Hank. So you might suspect that a tree does not contain continuous straw-like tubes.
The tree effectively has valves in it, so you don't have a column of water.
This big tube, which you're saying needs to be filled with water, is actually made up of cells.
Although these are good speculations, they don't turn out to be correct. Scientists who study trees find that the xylem tubes that transport water do contain a continuous water column. So how else could the tree transport water from the roots to the leaves?
They don't suck, they don't use a vacuum.
Okay, so how do they do it?
Squeezing like a cow, like you're squeezing a cow udder all the way up. There's little tree muscles in there.
Yeah. Besides being a giant waste of energy, all of the cells that make up the xylem tubes are dead. What about osmotic pressure? If there is more solute in the roots than in the surrounding soil, water would be pushed up the tree. But some trees live in mangroves where the water is so salty that osmotic pressure actually acts in the other direction, so the tree needs additional pressure to suck water into the tree. Then it must be capillary action. The thinner the tube, the higher the water can climb. But the tubes in a tree are too wide. At 20 to 200 micrometers in diameter, water should rise less than a meter. So how do trees do it? Well, one of the assumptions we made is wrong.
The lowest the pressure can go is a pure vacuum. Pure vacuum. Pure vacuum.
In a gas, this is true. When you eliminate all of the gas molecules, the pressure is zero, and you have a perfect vacuum. But in a liquid, you can go lower than zero pressure, and actually get negative pressures. In a solid, we would think of this as tension. This means that the molecules are pulling on each other and their surroundings. As the water evaporates from the pores of the cell wall, they create immense negative pressures of minus 15 atmospheres in an average tree. Think about the air-water interface at the pore. There is 1 atmosphere of pressure pushing in and negative 15 atmospheres of suction on the other side. So why doesn't the meniscus break? Because the pores are tiny, only 2 to 5 nanometers in diameter. At this scale, water's high surface tension ensures the air-water boundary can withstand huge pressures without caving. As you move down the tree, the pressure increases up to atmospheric at the roots. So you can have a large pressure difference between the top and the bottom of the tree because the pressure at the top is so negative. But hang on, if the pressure at the top is negative 15 atmospheres, shouldn't the water be boiling? Yes, it should. But changing phase from liquid to gas requires activation energy, and that can come in the form of a nucleation site, like a tiny air bubble. That's why it's so important that the xylem tubes contain no air bubbles, and they can do this because, unlike a straw, they've been water-filled from the start. This way, water remains in the metastable liquid state when it really should be boiling. It's just like supercooled water remains liquid even though it should be ice. So you could say that the water in a tree is supersucked because it remains liquid at such negative pressures. And why are trees moving all this water up the tree? I want you to make a guess. Say it out loud. For photosynthesis? Actually, no. Less than 1% of the water is used in photosynthetic reactions. Any other ideas? Okay, what about growth? Well, 5% of the water is used to make new cells. Well, so what happens to the other 95% of the water? It just evaporates. For each molecule of carbon dioxide that a tree takes in, it loses hundreds of molecules of water. Whoa. Can you believe how amazing this is? Trees create huge negative pressures of tens of atmospheres by evaporating water through nanoscale pores, sucking water up 100 meters in a state where it should be boiling but can't because the perfect xylem tubes contain no air bubbles, just so that most of it can evaporate in the process of absorbing a couple molecules of carbon dioxide. I will never look at trees the same way again.
Yeah. So how you saw, the tree takes several molecules of CO2 and release a huge amount of water. And what the scientists make a measurement that the transformation of different kind of state of matter need different kind of pressure. But how you see, the gas need the pressure zero. So what is mean about the gas? The gas will be more than plus. So if you compare the old mechanism, what the tree does with the villi inside of the intestines, this is the completely the same. For the equilibrium inside of the reaction of the carbonic acid and the relation with the hydrogen and the water, actually we have the same mechanism inside of the villa, and also the shape of the villa, the containing inside like a central point, the lymphatic vessels, this is your CO2, and around this is like a head of the blood vessels where they transform the different kind of gases. Actually, transformation of gases started inside of our cells. And how you see in the tree, for several molecules of for the CO2, the tree release a huge amount of water in different state because of the pressure inside of the tree. And if you imagine the same shape of the tree, if you imagine the movement of snake and why the snake are able to pass different state of matter, and if you compare with the CO2 kit and make the same shape, CO2 kit like in the shape of snake and movement of the snake, comparing the different cells, how to collect in one cell the DC and another one to transform to AC and to become like a movement. When you compare of the CO2 kit, how for several molecule of CO2 what you accept from air, you are able to release a huge amount of water, then we will be get idea of completely representative a representative model of that CO2 kit like a blank stem cells, which is representative model in all our body, even in our small intestines. So nature and our body and all the kingdoms before us, like animals and like plants, we have the same representative model of the structure and the movement and the transforming of matter in us. So that is for me. If you have questions, please ask me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Elia. That was a very good presentation.
Thank you, Elia. Amazing. Okay, do we have any questions from our Skype crew or from the live stream? There was one question that was already answered in the live stream regarding the amino acids and GANs, which maybe you can briefly explain, Elia, about. Let's see how the question exactly went. I think it. Vince already answered about. It's. Oh, there we go. I can scroll. The question was, Rick, can you please ask Mr. Kesh if we can take the amino acids against my chronic heart muscle inflammation and how I must do that? Thank you very much. And then Vince answered, Sebastian, Mr. Kesh cannot advise to take any of the amino acids or GANs. So maybe you could just explain a little bit about that, Elia. That's the amino acids and GAN from the that form from the top of the CO2 kits. I believe that's what we're speaking of.
Yeah, they are useful, but how you we say that after the moment we with you yeah.
Please, this is not a topic to discuss if they're talking about the amino acid from the CO2 kit till we complete our research. If they're talking about other kind of amino acids you can buy from different, what they call it, pharmaceuticals or other organizations, as a doctor, please pass a comment, not as an amino acid on the CO2 kit. Because some people will think they can eat it or whatever, and we have not got any information to release that they can do so.
Right.
Just
So
be protected. Yeah.
Just to
I just
clarify
planned
that.
to say the same things. Yes, I just planned to say the same things. Just thank you, sir. Yeah, that is my opinion too.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing is, we, in time when the institute opens up and we do the research and examination of the amino acids which are created on the surface of the water and the CO2 and other gases, we release information on, as papers, which we have always done. Till that point, we cannot make any, what do you call it, recommendation or comment as part of the technology development. Because there are those who are waiting on the wings to accuse of us, you told them and they used it or whatever. So we do not suggest or implement to use any of the materials unless we release research papers on it or it's been authorized by the authorities, health authorities, to be used.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And oops.
So I'd have some questions, but maybe they are not directly related to the intestines, or maybe they are. I wanted to ask about scurvy, because there are some kind of animals like humans or guinea pigs who we cannot synthesize the vitamin C in our bodies according to the present teachings of the science. So what is really causing this scurvy, and what we can do on long time space travels to avoid a problem like scurvy?
Different kind of vitamins, they absorb in different parts of our body. Some kind of them we are able to produce itself. Some kind we just take from the vegetables or the food what we eat. But I think now it's so early to describe that the vitamin absorption, because they're slightly different. If you don't mind, Sandor, just to keep that question from the next workshop, then there will be more complete answer for it too.
Thank you. I was not sure if it fits into this subject, so it's
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
at the time.
because we are still, we don't reach that point, just to be able more easy and people to layering the knowledge, you know, just to be able more easy to understand that. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
Okay, are there any other questions of Elia before we move on to Mr. Kesh's description and talk? Going
I think it's
once?
better just to go to Mr. Cash, because
Going twice?
I just, yeah, really wonder of his explanation, you know?
Right on. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's
Thank
move right
you.
into
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Thank you, Elia. Okay.
I think you can answer the question. It says, what has intestine to do with immune system? A lot. Maybe we come back at the end of this presentation, if you can come back to this question. Your immune system does not work. You have no immune system if you had no intestine. The reason for it, maybe we can answer now and then we go back to explanation of it. Your immune system is the energy which in a gas state but in a plasmatic condition is transferred through the wall of the intestine into the lymph and through the blood circulation and neurocharges. This lymph, which has received the energy from the intestine, gets sucked into the bone structure, and then the lymph, which is sucked through the bone structure at a certain strength, by crossing the wall of the bone, adds to and becomes part of the bone marrow, and by the suction and circulation of the blood from the ends of the bone, the lymph in the shape of T cells and B cells and the other form and shapes, T4s and the rest, which they become later on, are sucked into the blood circulation and into the lymph system. So the stronger the plasmatic magnetic fields are absorbed or extracted by the lymph from the walls or inside the intestines where the food goes through it, dictates the strength of the lymph and the immune system, which at the end is produced and delivered to the body. Your immune system, total operation of the immune system, is partially and basically depends on the absorption of the plasmatic magnetic fields by the lymph from your intestine. And when the absorption changes, or the rate of the flow of the energy, plasmatic magnetic field, that is energy, changes from the intestine into the lymph, you'll find out if it's weakened, you will have a weaker immune system because lower strength lymphs cross the wall, and then in turn you have a lower immune system because the strength of the bone marrow and what comes out as part of the immune system into the blood circulation and the lymph nodes and the lymph circulation system in the body will not be there to be able to overcome stronger fields like infections. You got to understand a simple principle. It is one chain. Is that better now? Is it better? So what you digest in form of gravitational magnetic field from the food which you, as we spoke last week, through your stomach, conversion through GANs to a plasmatic magnetic field, which strengthen or passes its energy to the lymph, in crossing the bone wall, dictates the strength of even the white cells and the immune system in your body. Understand the difference between the white cells and the red cells, then understand the difference between the lymph and the white cells. The structure is very much like dimming effect. When you have a dimmer, the more current you put, the brighter light you get. So lymphs and the white cells, what we call white cells, are show and manifest themselves in that form because they carry high power energy, plasmatic magnetic field strength. And the only way you add or you increase the strength of the cells as immune systems is through the digestion system. But then what you extract, what fields you extract from the intestine It depends very much on how well your intestines operate and how and in what environment you live. Because everything which Dr. Elia explained up to now is correct, but this is biological process which can be explained. But your intestines, what your intestines allows to pass the walls into the lymph is dictated by the gravitational magnetic field of the center core, what we call the stomach area. And then itself, this gravitational magnetic field is dictated by the gravitational magnetic field of the environment you are in. If you live in a hot area, you live in a cold area, different gravitational magnetic fields are created by the environment around the stomach. It affects the same condition as was explained, affects the strength of the amino acids which are as part of the structure of your lymph, and affects what they allow to be absorbed from the intestine. Then this dictates the habit of what you eat in what environment you live. The environment you live in creates a pressure cooker or a field extraction in an indirect way on your lymphs, and the lymphs in an indirect way dictate what they need according to the environment they live outside internally to extract from the food which is in the intestine. And then you pass this knowledge or this energy through your lymphs, through your bone marrow, which dictates the strength of your the immune system. In cases, we've discussed this very recently here in past week or so with Armin. When in the cases that is like cancer case, where you see expansion of the belly and the doctors extract the liquid of the stomach because it expands like a pregnancy, because it puts pressure on the skin and the patient is in pain. When this process starts, when you take the lymph or the liquid from the stomach out, you have guaranteed the death sentence. Why this is it? Doctors do not understand. There are certain parts of the operation of the body which cannot be interfered with. One is the lymph nodes, and one is the liquid within the layer of the stomach of the body of the man. This layer, this liquid, is part of the lymph. It gets pushed through the bone marrow, or through the bone marrow becomes your immune system. When you're extracting the liquid, you are extracting the powerful part of the most material you need to cross the wall to become part of your immune system to fight the disease. Now you deprive the system from it. How do you expect the body to fight the disease? You have taken the weapon away from it. You have taken the muscles away from it. How do you expect it to fight? How do you expect it to deliver a stronger field than the fields of the infection or the cancer? This is what the world of medicine has not understood. And in a way, when you come to cancer cases, especially in cases where they extract the liquid from the stomach, you have already written the death sentence. How do you expect? It's just a matter of time. The smallest infection will cause the death, because the right strength from the stomach is not absorbed to be added to the lymph, where the lymph needs to deliver through the bone, to the bone marrow, and to the immune system. This is the same position as when you eat food. As we explained last week, the digestion system or intestines are part of the operation of the physical side of the human being, not the emotional and the essence of the creation. So in process of what you eat, then the stomach changes it into what we call a Ganser state, as we explained last week. Now these gases are fully charged. You call it pancreas and other liquid which gets added into the gases which just coming from the stomach in a way to allow and give a standard what is needed to be extracted. Then with the instruction from parathyroid glands, with the instructions from, in so many ways, thalamus, then the body decides what materials are going to be extracted in gravitational magnetic field strength from the intestine. Intestine is a conversion system of plasmatic magnetic field of the gans of the matter into a gravitational magnetic field, crossing the wall, adding to the liquid of the lymph. But at the same time, this process allows the creation or GAN's conversion of the energy into matter due to the gravitational field within the structure of the stomach. This production of liquid in the stomach, in the cavity of the area of the stomach, intestines and everything else, is the exact replication of the process when we spoke about the creation of liquid in the lung. There is no difference. It's the same process. Where the body, we explained, produces its own liquid, and if it produces too much liquid, it leads to water in the lung. The same process is repeated back through the conversion of the plasmatic magnetic field of the materials, which is going through the lymph, through the intestine, crossing the wall and converting to the matter state. So, in totality, no material ever crosses the wall of intestine. But the conditions which are created beyond the wall in the core of the stomach decides how much liquid is created, and if you do not, or you pass to the age that the efficiency of the work or the condition of the conversion changes, then the body creates what we call as a storage surplus area. This is what you call fat. The conversion of the matters at the point into fat or to storage for the future. At the same time, I was explaining this yesterday, yesterday I think, or sometime past couple of days, to Arman and Marco here. When you extract, when you eat, for example, meat, which is barbecued, the smell which goes through your lungs, part of because you breathe it in as a smoke or whatever, is in the strength of the material which you swallow, which then converts into gaseous state. And then the two, in time, the energy of the two will come to interact. And then what you absorb in your stomach as a surplus gravitational magnetic field, and what has been absorbed in the lungs as gravitational magnetic field of the same essence of the smell of the same product, then it leads to intelligence. This is where the physicality and the emotional part come into operation. So what you eat and what goes through the stomach and then goes through the wall of the intestine to be converted back to matter at the level which the man needs for his operation, then if these two, in conjunction with what you breathe from the food you ate, which is stored in certain places in the brain, then this leads to balance or extra what we call intelligence. That's why some nations, some races are more intelligent, are so more sensitive. This is to do with the food and the smell and the odor and the environment they live. When they come, it leads to the intelligence or to certain kind of emotional behavior with physicality. So your intestine, what is absorbed from it as gravitational magnetic field from the GANs of the materials which are produced in the stomach, is the essence of the way you look, you walk, the materials which are needed for the color of your skin and the rest. Because then, according to the environment, according to the position in respect to gravitational magnetic field of the area you are in conjunction with the lymphs and parotid glands and thymus, your body decides how you're going to look, what you need to be, and what shape, what height, and the rest of it. So, Dr. Elia has got into the physical construction and how it is. And the more and more we're going into teachings, and Dr. Elia is absorbing the knowledge, and the other doctors we know are listening and they are taking this on board, we see that more terminologies are used by the scientists in bringing the old and new together. Like Dr. Elia explains about the nano-layering of the stomach. And now we understand why the stomach behaves as nothing can get stuck on it, and the food literally flows over it. Because even the liquid which is inside the intestine is, as is in a gravitational magnetic field environment, it behaves like magnetic water. It's gravitational, it's magnetic, it behaves like a GANs. So the GANs material don't stick to each other. They cannot do, because it's positioning, they have spheres of magnetic fields which keeps them apart. It's like a magnetic repulsion attraction. So the food in the intestine floats, and where in the structure of the body of the intestine the gravitational magnetic field of the food matches the gravitational field of the wall, the two magnets interact and the energy is extracted at that point in the body of the man and transferred to the lymph. Then, according to the structure and the race and the position in the environment we live, in some cultures and some races, we need, let's say, 10 centimeters to absorb vitamin C. And then in other cultures, we need 20 centimeters to absorb the vitamin C because of the environmental magnetic gravitational fields. Then if you understand this, understand psychological and the position of the sailors who usually show the scurvy, and then they had to use vitamin C to eradicate it in the past, then you understand why and how it happens. On the seas, the position is always zero. On the seas, there is always fear of death. Because there is not a day that a sailor would not think, what happens? Would I see my family? What happen if the big wave comes or a hurricane comes? Or a big wave hits us over? So diseases like scurvy, which show themselves in lack of some vitamins, you have to understand what these vitamins mean and where they are extracted from the body as plasmatic magnetic field in the intestine. These are what I call psychosomatic, emotional, physical manifestation in the body of the man. And these conditions are created due, as Dr. Elia explained, the blood vessels flow which carry the emotion in them. Fear of death, fear of uncertainty. Body does not have and cannot adjust so fast to changes. In time, man, and space, I was explaining to Armin and Marco yesterday in teaching here, that all the men in deep space will look more or less the same, because we'll absorb energy, and the environment which is created within the craft will decide a continuous, monotonous field. So in the long run, most of the deep space travelers will look very much the same. It is because the environment and the position dictates this, and what can be absorbed from intestine into the lymph body of the man. Because in the space, we pass the energy through the environment, a constant peaceful environment, creates the fields within the brain and the energy absorbed from intestine to be monotonous. And monotonicity brings balance and uniformity. This is exactly what we'll see in the future. And according to our amino acid, will dictate how we will totally look. As I was explaining yesterday here, most of the astronauts are known as to have a moon face because of the zero gravity condition they're flying. But in the space, in a constant gravitational magnetic field, which is 1G as we create, you'll find most of the man will have similar shape and size, according to what is decided at the production of the gravitational magnetic star formation, at the time of departure or when they add to it. So very much what food you eat is partially dictates what is absorbed through your lymph, through your the wall of the intestine. Mainly is dictated by gravitational magnetic field of the core, what we call the center core, which is the stomach, intestine, and the big intestine, the large intestine, and the emotional gravitational magnetic field, which is created in the lung and the heart, and at the same time, the other core which affects the work of this area of the stomach is the reproduction line, which is the fourth core at the bottom. So what you absorb from the food in your intestine is very much dictated by your emotional gravitational field, which is the second core, which is the heart and chest, or your lungs, and the fourth, which sits with your reproduction. Most of the death of the man comes due to the disability and invisibility of reproduction line, which has never been understood fully by the world of science. That's why women go through menopause, and going through menopause creates a different condition within the core of the, what do you call it, the hip, and then that in turn, can you stop please? And then in turn creates a gravitational magnetic field slightly different than when it was working before as a full ovary and the womb. And then it changes the absorption of the energy from the intestine into the lymph of the body of the man. You cannot isolate. In a way, without intestine, there is no life. We explain that the stomach was the position where the matter was converted back to gans, to a star formation. Now you converted it. Now it's the intestine which decides what is going to be taken out of it. And you don't have a proper working intestine. If you have a problem with intestine, or you find changes with it, then it takes the process of your life. Because this is the point where now the energy of the stars are converted back to energetic matter condition which the body can handle. You cannot feed a lettuce to liver, and you cannot give a carrot to your leg. This is the position which without the intestine, there is no life. You can shorten and strengthen it. You can do all sorts of things with it, but you need it to get the conversion back into monotonous, homogeneous lymph within a certain gravitational magnetic field that leads to creation and sustaining the physical part of the body of the man. You can go into all details and show all kind of physicalities and conversion, but this is all what man always is materialistic and physical, has to explain something is done. But the bottom end, if you go into all the details which Dr. Elia showed, is all conversion of plasmatic magnetic field of a gans which going through the body into be able to transfer across the wall between the condition of the planet and the vacuum condition of the sausage of the body of the man. As I said always, the body of the man is a tube, sausage, hollow, and you cannot cross anything through it except gravitational magnetic field energy level. You try to get a pee through the wall of the intestine. It won't be absorbed, it stays as a pee. You have to convert this energy back into a level which can cross the wall. Now doctors come up with all sorts of explanation. This is where the vitamin comes, this is where the phosphorus is done. This is all part of the structure. Why do you need phosphorus? Look at the atomic mass of the phosphorus. Look at the atomic mass of the nitrogen. Then you understand even why you have the structure of the phosphorus in your DNA. The spacing of it. And all depends how your DNA, how healthy, or what conversion on your DNA, what changes done on your DNA. It depends totally on what you absorb in your intestine. And then at the same time, if that information carries, that brings a change and is transferred into the emotional part through the blood vessels, it becomes a part of your RNA. And then your DNA is irrelevant wherever it is, because once you have the RNA fingerprint, then decides the position of RNA in respect to the fault in your RNA change and DNA change. In the future, I explain how important the work of intestine is. You take the intestine out, say goodbye to life in physicality. Because you have no system to convert the energy into matter state which is digestible for the body. It's very much, you cannot give soup or steak to a one-day born child. You need the breasts of the mother to convert, to give the milk which the body of the child can absorb. This is the job of intestine. Converting matter into a state of the energy which the body of the man can use it in different strength by use of different, what do you call it, glands, converting them back to the material which is needed, or liquidize it, or strengthen it as is needed in the future in different part of the body. You don't look in a plasmatic condition in how the lymph works, how the intestine works, what is the structure of it, how it's different shape in different parts. You look as totality, what different shape and part, forms, give, adds to the lymph that then can be carried out throughout the body for its application to conversion to the gas state of the matter. It becomes a tissues, it becomes a nail, it becomes a blood cell, it becomes part of the immune system. The totality, as much as you need the thalamus to have the emotional part, you need the intestine to have the physical part. And without it, there is no life. Any questions?
Yes, there is a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Cash. There's a question from Miles in the live stream. Can you comment on the study that fasting for 3 days can regenerate the entire immune system?
I don't know about that.
Okay,
what do you do when you fast? What do you do when you fast? You change the gravitational magnetic field environment of your stomach. You create a new condition. The whole process of the plasma and what we call magrav is creative condition to lead to what magrav you have and what you need. If you can fast for 3 days, what do you damage and what do you activate to take part to do its work? In so many ways, if you look, what does the fasting means? As you know, in different religions, people fast different times and different length. But what does it bring to you? I was explaining yesterday here about the feature of the men and how their food affects their feature and why you get different faces according to the diet and what you absorb. By fasting, you create a point of, in a way, understanding your own strength. How much can you stand without food or just fasting just with water? And do you become more alert, or does your physical part reprocesses materials which was not needed and it was hanging around during the time when you're fasting, by using your parathyroid glands and converting them to the other things which was needed, and now you start afresh? Because the body can, just because you decided not to eat, it hasn't stopped its functioning, so it has to find energy somewhere and convert some materials to some things that guarantees its own existence.
So essentially it would be like burning up the debris and clogging proteins and that kind of thing, right?
Does it only burn the debris, or it burns the good material too? Because if some of these fastings are extremely dangerous. Fasting has to be logical and psychologically correct. Some cases when people go in fasting without, what do you call it, without understanding what they do, because they don't have the physical ability to do the fasting, and they do it sometimes for a long time. In some occasions, very rare occasions, the body start eating the tissue, or converting the tissue or the muscles into energy. And we see this in some cases of rare cases of MS. And one of the first indications of this kind of body eating itself is if you open your hand, the curtain between the thumb and the index finger is usually carries a fat. You see it with the people which their body has gone through reconsuming itself. You find out one of the first indication is this tissue of fiber here in between disappears and becomes totally like a skin. This is a very good indication for people who who have been through this process or part of the MS process. You see it in some cases of MS, because then the body starts decomposing its own thing to use the hydrogen in the amino acid for its use for its energy. That's all it does. Because once it degenerates itself, only it's going for is hydrogen to be able to convert it back into a rapid energy production. And then you start eating into your muscle tissue. Any other question?
Yeah, there's another question from Mike here, who says, do you need the same intestine if one absorbs elements at the skin level?
What does that mean?
I think Mike would have to explain that. Do you want to explain a little bit there, Mike, on that?
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Cash. Good morning, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. You were talking about the intestine, and several workshops. You've also mentioned that, eventually man could absorb the elements through the skin, and then you said all of the other organs that aren't being used would shrink. And I was just wondering if the intestine would be the only thing left.
It would depend if we still go through the digesting or eating.
Meaning, I'm not sure if I follow that part.
If we still use solid materials to put in our mouth.
Okay, gotcha now.
Then we do. You got to go to a point when the time comes when the man does not need his digestion system, the mouth will close because he doesn't need anything to put in it.
All right. Cool.
As long as you got a mouth, it means something has to go inside the digestion system.
All right. Answers that question.
Well, thank you very much. This position with intestine tube, as I call from top to bottom, if you understand the process of it and the motion of magnetic fields which they interact and they connect, is very much like the example we saw last week in the push of the plate with two vortexes on either end. One end is the mouth, and the other in twist of it goes through the stomach. A lot of people, as I said, they think anus is just for discarding what you don't need, but you'll be amazed how much you receive through the back passage, through the energy. It's very much like a North Pole and South Pole. The North Pole sits on your head. Where do you think the energy comes from? But man hasn't had the intelligence to understand it. You dictate, that's what I said, the environment dictates what you eat. Because if you look what energy enters in the body through the ground level. Why our food is dictated by our environment. Why our food even dictated by how we sit. You'll find out if you sit like most of the people do on the ground and eat, you'll find totally different behavior in respect to the people around the table or around the, what they call it, what they spread on the floor to eat from. And you find totally different behavior with the people who sit around the table and the chair. Behavior changes totally, and the digestion changes totally. You find, again, if you eat and lie on the floor, sleep on the ground level, you have a different digestion system and you feel different than when you live on a high-rise flat on a bed full of irons and springs. Because the environment affects your absorption of the material and the energies.
So, would you say, in a way, that the intestine looks like a brain? In a way, it more or less acts as a brain, does it not? Is it our bottom brain?
It's not a brain. It just knows what you need because it's told what to absorb.
It just responds automatically to the environment, more or less.
It responds to environment, but you have to consider that it's got a watchdog, which is called parathyroid glands. You've got a thymus, which has got control in the connection between the physicality and the emotion part. And then it has a master which dictates how much of it it can absorb through the what you call the fourth cavity in the body, the hip. You will find in the long run, if you start observing, the shape of the hip decides a lot of time what people eat and how they behave. Forget about the fat, which how fat they are and they have any bones on their hip or not. It's the same way as the shape of the hand. The layering of the hand is very much the same as the last layering of this intestine, because it's the last point which absorbs the energy into the body of the man, and they behave the same way. I always say, you want to know what the man is, who the man is, shake hand with him, because he knows how much he takes from you through the touch and what he gives you. It's the same way as behavior of what he digests in his stomach. A lot of people have not understood the effectiveness of energy taken or given through a handshake. You look and you will see the people who, the way they shake their hand, strong, weak, tip of the finger, halfway, who hands shakes hand, is how much they take from you and how much they give you. And this is, in a way, a digestion system. It's exactly the structure of the intestine, which is the last layer in absorbing energy to be added to the lymph. When you shake hand with someone, or when you sleep on the floor, you absorb energy directly into your lymphs, and then that goes back into where it's going to be converted. There's a long way gone left for man to understand the full operation of his body. Any other question? We're coming to our nearly 2 hours.
There was a sort of a brief question from, looks like Caven, something about we need the thymus for the physicality too. That was for a particular comment earlier, so I'm not sure if that's an actual question or if it even makes sense right now. We need... Okay, so there is a question about the hands. What is it that's inside the palm of the hands, like the lines of the hands? Is that a layering too? And I would sort of add to that, what about the idea of people reading palms, and how does that tie in? What is the tie-in there for in
I
terms
don't
of.
know. If you can read what shape my stomach is not going to affect me, who I am, then the palm will remain the same. I don't believe in these things, because I don't understand it.
Okay, well, let's get back to what you just said about, which piqued my interest, with the hip. You said if you can tell people's eating habits and so on from the hip. Now, what did you mean? Then you mentioned it was not the fat, it was not the bone structure. Then what's left that you see when you see a hip in the way that you're perceiving it?
The shape and the size of the hip, naturally over millions of years, us men have become an expert. And it's become part of our, what do you call it, unconscious but understanding behavior. We as human beings, as men, we look who can carry our, what do you call it, offsprings. And one of the first thing which is, with the minute you see a female, is you look at the size of the hip unconsciously. You look at the size of the chest, and there is a ratio with the hip, and if that fits to you, it could be size 50 to 20 or 60 to 10, it doesn't matter. If it fits into your psychological pattern of behavior through the food and emotion, which is, they found the ratio, a special ratio with it now, then you decide, yes, this is the person who I would like to have a child with or be friend with. And the size and the shape of the hip dictates a lot of decision making unconsciously, because we've done it automatically over millions of years. So we decide how the hip moves, the shape of it, the way it's positioned, all gives us as to a gravitational magnetic field of our emotion, if we like to have an offspring, mainly with that hip. And then we look at the breast, if it can be, what do you call it, if it can nourish the child. The whole process of living still is very much hidden in the background, but it's the survival and guarantee of the regeneration. So the way we see the hip structure, and you can tell a lot, if when you look at the MRI of a hip, you can tell a lot about the personality and the behavior. And even to, for example, with the females, by looking at the MRI or the X-ray of the hip, you can say how many children they've had due to the positioning of the bone. You can say how they behave through the structure and the thickness of the bone of the hip. A lot of detailed examination in the behavior, how broad the hip is, how thin the bone is, all gives you indication of the behavior and the structure of the person. It's the same with the man. This is part of the teaching. We'll go into detail in the Institute when we open up in the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you for that. What else do we have for questions? Kevin is elaborating on the live stream. He says, I remember Mr. Kesh saying that the thymus is responsible literally for the state of the physicality, and through evolution, if the thymus reduces or vanishes, then no physicality.
Yes, because thymus is one of the sources of the control of the division of cell. Most of the B12, which leads to the division, which supports the field radiation by nitrogen in amino acid, is decided by thymus, and so it is the most vital point. And the weaker it gets, and in deciding in what the strength, it releases the, what do you call it, the B12, dictates on the division, and then the life. Because then when the thymus comes to its, what I call dysfunctionality, the operation and division stays more or less only with the lymph nodes, which carry most of the B12 for division at the cell point at the organ where they are positioned in for. The size changes, reduces, but at the same time, because then it's at that time it has passed most of the information into the lymph system. We'll come after we finish with the organs, then we go into the glands, and then we go into detail about the operation of the glands. Then we bring the glands with the organ they're attached to and what they do and what then we come to it.
Okay. Mr. Kesh, could you speak a little bit about, a lot of people like myself have an allergy to gluten in wheat, and it seems to affect a lot of people these days. And what happens is the little cilia in the small intestine basically get knocked over or wiped out for several days when someone eats wheat. And then if you stop eating the wheat, they come back again and start functioning again as digestive factors. Do you know anything about that in terms of your ideas?
I have studied this for a long time, because I had to look at this because I saw a child 3-4 years ago in Palma, and it was shocking for me such a young child should suffer this way. And we've done a lot of work on it. I studied very well, very thoroughly. Actually, she was born in Belgium, and in so many ways you have to it's partially psychological. Gluten deficiency, and now we see a lot of gluten-free, and destruction or loss of the, what is like a hairlines on the intestine, and it comes back again. What is like a tongues in a way, as Dr. Elliot was trying to explain. These has to go back to ask the question why something which is part of the body of the man dies or disappears and it comes back again. It's very much like a ILS. Why does a man decide to kill himself? By committing, by shutting down slowly. In most of the gluten cases, especially now, you have to look at what psychological effect sits behind it. Then you find the answer. Because the stomach has a possibility to adjust and adapt. On the other hand, the new, what you call modified materials create a misinformation, or in a way gravitational magnetic field strength as of the emotion in the body of the man in the blood system. This is one of the side effects of modified food, which in different shape or forms is getting added into the cycle of the food of the man. The emotion, let me explain. The emotional part, which is the blood cells, carries a specific gravitational magnetic field strength. And the food up to now had its own gravitational magnetic field, and the two were separate. They're slightly like two different frequencies, one FM and one is what you call AM. Now, part of the food now in the process, which is because of genetically modified, creates condition and magnetic field strength as, or mimics the emotional gravitational magnetic field of emotional part. And this, on the other hand, creates a problem. The same, because it's the wrong information, which has nothing to do with the emotional part, but it mimics it. And then, so the structure, in a way, retracts itself. These modified food and different things which is added, that's why you see this huge gluten that did not exist in a way a few years ago, but is becoming bigger and bigger. It's to do with the modified food, which creates gravitational magnetic field when it's digested, which mimics the emotional part when it reaches the part of the body. And don't forget, you feel panic in your stomach, in your guts, in your intestine. It creates the same kind of local panic, and they just retract, because it mimics the emotional gravitational magnetic field of the emotional part of the body in that section. Usually it's just a recovery point, then there is no panic and they come out. It's like you can do certain things with this, but in the long run is to do with our emotional part and the interference with the new modified food. Because look at the gluten, look what is the structure of gluten. What kind of energy carries as a hydrogen bond, which is used for the body, or as a carbon bond. You can try what we call backup. I call it the backup emotional cups, which you do with the air. But in so many ways, it's a new backdoor passage into emotional disbalances in the families too. It has a root. I've looked at this a few cases, and it's different, and according to what it is and how it is. Look at this for gluten, see what is a chemical bond of the gluten, and then you look at this gravitational magnetic field, and then look at the emotional gravitational magnetic field of the blood. It's a strength with what we absorb through the lungs. You'll find a lot of connections. What I call a constant panic, but created through, mainly at the moment is what we can say, what they call it, modified food chain. With the flours, which you originally start, and the rest of it. Cakes and that kind of thing. Any other question?
Thank you for that. There's one more question in the live stream. I think maybe you want to wrap things up soon here, Mr. Kesh. I'm getting that impression.
Do we have the Spanish? What time is our Spanish teaching?
The Spanish one won't be, it's not scheduled for another hour. And we're sort of supposed to take the health one for another half hour if you need that time.
Let's see what we can do.
Okay. Okay, there is a question. Will it be possible in the future to extend the environment of, say, sleeping on the ground or eating on the ground so you can obtain that environment in a high-rise structure? Or I would extend that to, what about a spaceship structure?
You can do. It can be done, but you got to look what the body needs. It's not hard to do, but in a way it can be done. In so many ways, it depends how let's rephrase it, depends what your body needs from its environment. to satisfy both the physicality and emotional part of the body. This is like what you say, why slim men go out with a very huge women and they don't match. But in fact, they match each other perfectly, because the guy is looking for receiving the emotional wrapping of the mother in the womb, and he sees that in the large-sized woman. And why large-sized women go out with a very slim man? Because psychologically, she satisfied in being dominating, doesn't matter how strong he is, because she wraps him, so she's in charge. And that, at the same time, you find out they eat the same food. Most of the absorption of the energy from our environment and our body is dictated by our emotional state. We find out we will not touch a food in our life, but we fall in love, the environment changes, we are in with a person, doesn't matter, a man or a woman or whatever, and that environment gives us, because to be able to receive the emotional interaction, if she eats mud, we eat mud too, even though we never touch mud. Because in that state, we receive in the environment of our intestine, in our stomach, the fields which we need, which we in the emotional part and physical part of our body.
How about if women or men, well, especially women, stop eating solid food? What is expected to happen with the breastfeeding of babies?
I don't know, depends what is in the food. But don't forget, your body converts. Your parathyroid glands convert. That's why we cannot eat certain things, because those things does not allow the body to do the conversion in what needs. We don't eat, let's say, brick, because what material is in there is not much good for our body or our glands or our digestion system to convert into what we need. If we could get what we need from the brick, we'll eat brick. I don't know if you've seen a lot of animals, especially birds, go to walls just to pick up calcium or minerals. Or you see dogs eat a certain kind of vegetation certain time of the year, because it carries the vitamin they need. We eat what we need, what we can digest for what we need, and according. Maybe in the future, man in space will eat aluminium. We don't know, because that space will dictate that kind of thing can be eaten. That our body can convert the structure. We have a very interesting point here. I think Armin has been trying to tell me to show it to you. As you know, Armin is Archimedes of the foundation. He tries everything as long as it's to do with nanomaterial. I tried to open the camera that you can see. Yesterday I said we can show this in the work today. What I want to show you is, if you can see it, this is the liquid, which is greenish brownish in color. This is created by Armin in the past week or so by passing a current between two copper plates with sugar as water. Am I correct? Yeah. A little salt, but primarily sugar. Am I correct? Yeah. So if you look at this material, Armand showed me this and he says, what is this? Why is this color? It is brownish, greenish color. And I said to him, looking at this liquid, I said this carries red gans or the blood inside it. And when you tip the, I don't know if you can see it, if you tip the bucket, you will see red spots. I don't know if you can see it in this container. How do you want to show it? This way. You can see the red spots? I think you can see it clearly now.
Yes, we can.
So what happened is suddenly why copper, which we always had green, has started creating blood. These are very much, you can see it, if we can, I think we have to go further that way, Arman. You can see the red. This comes, it's gonna, yeah, we can see it perfectly now. You can see the production of the red material. It's a pure copper plates used. And in the process of creating GANs, because the atomic mass of some of the alloys of copper are and go to the extent of the iron isotopes, they do not in the GANs state behave as copper, but they behave as iron. And in the nanoatomic structure of the molecular fat, which is on top of the plate, which is circulating on top of the water, create instantaneous what we call red blood cells. This is not red copper. Red copper is totally different color. So, in a way, I explained to Armin and Marco yesterday, we went through the periodic table, looking at the isotopes of both the copper and the iron, and you see there is a position which they have similar isotopes, but one behaves as a copper and one behaves as a iron. And if you go back to the very original half a bottle, which the very first containers of the GANs with the wire, which was produced by the knowledge seekers in the corner of the lab, when the water was touching the contact point of the, what we call the sugar, the connection, where is the iron, we start seeing red blood spots exactly like this. And I said, this is blood, it's hemoglobin. And in very much, if you go back into the structure of the human body tissues, then you understand, if you go back to the other teachings which you've done, we say the copper is the conductor in the muscular structure of the human body when there are no nerves. Where if you create a right gravitational magnetic field, you create a copper which behaves like iron, but at the same time stays conductive and information carrier as a copper. So now, as you see, you create the red blood cells, but in the GANs state of the red, which shows it has an iron content. And this shows for the first time, in a way, in an open space, we have managed to start the establishing of the first human cells, blood cells. Do we need other animals to create blood for blood banks of the future? No. This is the first time you see this. It's the second time you see it. Now you can see it, how easily it's done. Armand can produce as much as you like of this in the containers, which is he's connecting at the moment. The voltage is extremely low, the current is extremely low. It creates a condition between two copper plates, because not all the copper in the copper plate are 63. It's a composite material of different isotopes. When the right gravitational magnetic field between the plates are created, you find the red structure, which is the hemoglobin structure. And then now you understand how in your body you have tissues and muscles which are, what do you call it, red in fiber.
Mr. Cash, I'm wondering why you would suspect they're human blood cell hemoglobin. After all, it does come from Armin. He's working on it.
Is from the why is he a different animal? That's what you're
I
trying
think
to
he
tell
comes
us.
from another planet other than human, but you know.
Listen, I've been accused to be alien, and I carry what do you call it? I carried aliens' blood. I didn't think Armand was one of them, but we have to test him now. But he's got the red blood cells, huh?
Well,
maybe he has mutated. You don't.
So would these blood cells be sort of in a way like stem cells? They're more or less origins
yes,
for any
We
animal, not just human.
We've seen this process I explained this 2-3 weeks, few weeks ago, about the ice melting in north of China and ending up in China, Sea of Japan, and becoming single cell, what do you call it, animals, and then becoming part of the food chain for the fish, for the whales. This is a natural process of the creation. Now it's under the camera, you can see it. You can go through the process and produce it yourself, but it still keeps the structure of the solidity like a fibrous, like a tissue. But depends how the amino acid was produced on the surface or around the plate. Then it dictates what kind of blood or what you call hemoglobin is. So if you dictate the environment around the container, you can dictate what kind of, do you want a blood for a dog, do you want a blood for a human, do you want a dog for a fish? A blood for a fish. This is the first time. This is very simple, but it's a major breakthrough in the world of science. And you sit in a simple way on the table. This takes away all the taboo that the man came from different planet and they planted us here. The first cells of life in a shape of the iron and amino acid sitting right in front of you. An interaction with the copper, because not all of them has converted into the red structure in a visible size. They mix with the copper oxide, and then you have the greenish mucky, and then if you look at the background, is a brownish, is not green. This material here, if I can show you, is brown in texture, and this is like very much like when the flesh rots. Can I have a tissue, please? This is what the process goes through, conversion of the hemoglobin into the other structures. So now you see the real structure and how life was created on this planet. And you don't need to be an alien, you'll be brought in a simple way, in the past few days, in a very simple process. Why is your mixer switched off? You need your mixture to mix the blood.
This water comes out with the pipe.
Okay, put it up, put his finger up above the water level, then it doesn't fall. So now you have seen the repetition of what we saw about 9 months ago in the lab, where I explained that the red which comes from the iron contact is hemoglobin. In a way, if partially we could add magnesium environment to this, you will start seeing the structure of the leaf. He says he's got magnesium. Our God has a right. He can make anything you like. It's called almond. So you will see the structure. Can I have something small? We can pick it, like a screwdriver head or something. You see how life and blood started, and then it can lead to other things. I try to scrape it as you see it. We don't touch these. It is very much. Yeah, that's tooth. Fine, we cannot pick it. You can actually see the structure. If I can bring it closer, you can see the material is red on the tip. And in a way, if we use a tissue paper and rub it on it, you see very much the shape of a blood. I don't know if you can see the. Can we take that box away, please? You see very much the structure of the blood in redness. So, in a simple way, we have shown man was never brought in, and a human blood belongs to this planet. Don't touch this, please. And in so many simple way, we can show. You can. I don't know if you can see it. Just on the side, when the water shakes up, it becomes exactly red like a blood. We saw this yesterday, and now you see it when you hang it and dry it, just blood gets mixed up in the water. So maybe today is what do you call it, one of the most important talks we have ever given on the health side. That in a simple way we show how the beginning of the creation of man and the blood has been done on this planet. And in a simple way, if we can understand the structure, how it's done, then we don't need to carry blood banks. This will be one of the processes that will in the university we start looking and we develop. And then we have pure blood without infection. But then it comes, what is the emotion which this blood will carry? There are a number of trials going on here. We are winding up or winding down, getting ready to move to Bari in the coming week. But still we go through the process. There it comes, Armin. Tomorrow, next week we'll have vegetables, yeah? We have Martians on the table. We'll see, what do you call it? Green blood. Or for vertical animals, not for horizontal ones. Any questions? No questions, we can go home.
I only see one question, and it goes back to the intestines. If part of the intestines is removed because of surgery, can it regenerate or make up for it in another way?
I don't know. You have to ask that from Dr. Elliot.
Well, we do know that different parts of the intestine will digest different materials. So if part of our intestine is removed, it makes sense that that section will not be able to digest properly.
To somewhere else. You transfer the gravitational magnetic field to somewhere else to absorb what you need.
Can we make up for it with materials like you have shown are being created in the future? so we won't need that part of
Want
the
to find a
intestine.
replacement? Maybe this is a long term. Maybe once we bring the scientists from different disciplines, we can go into the growth of the muscles. This has a huge applications in what do you call it, handicaps, and the people who are in the wheelchair. In so many ways, does it show us, this is one of the gaps in the foundation health section, reproduction and bringing back the, what do you call it, inactive muscles back to activity. Would we be able, by using certain structures, allow the fibers to be produced on such a high rapid way that it brings them strength?
You showed or mentioned a toe regrowing in the past.
Yeah, but now we have a very good interaction with a group of scientists who we can test this very quickly. This mixture in front of you opens up a huge possibilities, untold possibilities that it's the first time we have managed to produce solid state fiber as muscles in the same structure. If you understand this potential, can we allow, and the way Harmony in matter of a few days have managed to produce so much GANs in a tissue, in a red structured tissue of the protein, can we rebuild lost muscles that people can stand up and walk after being in a wheelchair for 10, 20 years because they lost them? We have a huge opportunity to explore this in the coming days and weeks in Barry. I just, what do you call it? We most probably will have the spin-offs started even before we have the first master lecture. There is huge application in technology. And now we have the opportunity as a university structure, in the university structure, to open up and invite other scientists from universities to join us to explore the possibilities. In the area we are going, there are a number of very powerful universities which we can call upon their collaboration to test anything we see because they have the facilities.
Okay, I think we only have just a few minutes left here. Would you like to elaborate on any other announcements or particular topics?
Not really. We are in the process of our, what do you call it, development, and we'll see where our knowledge and our technology goes in the future and how we can. You can start applying for place for masters, I think on Monday, to join the master degrees as a university. I think on Monday the website and a promotional video made by the university team will be released, and then you can apply. We have received a number of applications. The structure is that we do not refuse anyone if we see fit to be able to be part of the structure of the learning process.
Okay, thank you.
But at the same time, we don't allow time wasters. Just coming to have a holiday and see if you can disturb. It's progressive. Marco has literally done all the structure of the teaching and the timetable for it. It's very intense teaching and learning and us being taught. And those who want to make the change for humanity can join.
And we'll have an address for people to send to on
Yep.
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be on the video. It's on the promotional. Yeah, it'll be on the promotional video, which you are aware of. Somehow Arman managed to release partially unprepared, half-cooked system. Some people have seen partially part of the video.
A sneak preview, they call it. Yeah.
Sneak preview, yeah. That was a sneak preview of half preview. But everything will be put on as it is to go ahead to be done.
So that might be a few more days before we get to the public gets to see that video. But before the 1st, I guess, or maybe on the 1st.
Around the first is a Sunday, if I'm correct. Most probably on Monday, Tuesday, when it'll be released.
Okay.
Oh yes, Marco trying to tell me to not to forget to say the pain pads, the pain 8 pads have gone on sale on the Keshe Foundation website as of yesterday or the day before, and we've seen some interest on orders, and what you can go and if you are looking for it, waiting for it, you can go and see it if you want to order it. I think if you go on Keshe Foundation, one of the Italian guys who has used this technology past 3 weeks, which he had a lot of problem with walking and limping. He has changed a lot in his, him carrying and walking because of the pain. And he told me yesterday that he's going to put it on with his own recommendation because he's used it himself. That's they can do. So what we're going to do, we're going to go according to people's, not attestation, but their own report of what they see with the system. That's the pain pad. We have put it at €45 from the foundation. If there is any surplus compared to the other sites are made, it goes to the work of the foundation. So you make a donation with the system. We done the same with the CO2. I was told you can buy the CO2 should be different prices. We said we put the shipping, and whatever there is extra goes to the work of the foundation, because it belongs to the foundation. You make a donation towards plus the system and the transport. We are not going to change the prices just to be there. You know, it goes to the foundation and is part of the system we have put in. Thank you very much. We have a half an hour break before the Spanish.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I think that wraps it up for today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elia, for your input and nice work.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
you're welcome, sir.
Thank you indeed. We'll see you in half an hour in the Spanish language.
Okay. And thanks to everybody for helping out today.
Can I mention one thing that Dr. Van Dorp in Australia and New Zealand has done a lot of the, the live streams as a text. If you want to translate any of them into any languages, you can go on the Keshe Foundation forum site and pick up the, his work. Transcription of all the live streams has been done by him on the knowledge seekers, and the medical and the children has been done by one of the Keshe Foundation supporters, Mr. Hoy from China. He's paid for it to be translated and all been done, and it'll be published in the coming weeks through, again, Dr. Van Dorp in South Pacific. Thank you very much indeed for your help, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. and Elia, and this is the end of the 20th Cash Health Teaching Workshop, and thank you everybody for attending.
All the time. Actually, that nano-coated vibe all the time make a loop inside of our abdomen cavity from the beginning. And that loop is actually also spinning and twisting in the same direction, like right to left, but in different angles regarding the place of the small intestines, because also they have different kind of levels inside of abdomen cavity. Actually, our small intestines, their longitudinous is more than 6-7 meters in the adult individual. So can you imagine how much loops they made inside of your abdomen cavity? Even from beginning, they start with loop, and all the time they twist and make additional loops inside of abdomen cavity. And also don't forget they are nano-coated itself. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation exactly the way of spinning of our small intestines. After the stomach starts the duodenum. This is the first part of our small intestine, and actually the duodenum starts after the pyloric sphincter, the pyloric muscle pump, which close the stomach. And when the food like is already in liquid state go out from the stomach, the pylor pump, the pylor sphincter just close, and after that the liquid state of matter go inside of our small intestine. The fourth place is duodenum. In duodenum area, the bile juice and the pancreas juice just come inside of the wall of the intestines, and they suppose the absorption and digestion, like a chemical state of the liquid state of matter. And how you see after the duodenum, the shape of our small intestines, they are so similar to the shape of snake from the beginning to the end. In anatomical language, we separate different level of the small intestines with different names because more or less they have different structure inside of epithelium. And this is not by consequence. Uh, you will see during the explanation of the workshop why we have different kind of epithelium, different kind of representation of that epithelium through the longitudinous of our small intestines. So beginning is our duodenum, then we have the part of ileum, and then ileum. After ileum starts the large intestines. And actually the shape of our intestines, they're like a snake itself, but also like a spiral. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation more schematic, the way of how our small intestine just turning and make specific shape inside of our abdomen cavity. How you see the shape is similar to the shape of hemispheres of our brain, and also the shape of the new one small reactor device what Armen made. Exactly, if you compare the left and right side of that slide, you see that the coil inside of the reactor of Armen is like our intestines, and the large intestine is the outer core of the Armen reactor. So if we take a large picture of all abdomen cavity with large and small intestines, they represent itself the conversion of the AC to DC and vice versa. Also, we have the same repetitive model inside of the wall of the small end of the large intestines, but inside of the shape of the abdomen, repetitive model of the reactor, new one of the armen, is its configuration of the small intestines, how they make a shape and loops like a snake and like a
Excuse me,
coil.
Elia,
Yes.
can you slow down a bit? You're going too fast.
Okay, sir. Yeah, no problem.
Please slow down. We can't catch up.
Okay, no problem, sir. Okay, so exactly, I will repeat myself a little slowly. Inside of the abdomen area, repetitive model of the neuron reactor of Armen is the shape of the small intestines, and how you see around them goes the large intestines. So inside, this is the coil of the Armen neuron reactor, and outside, this is the large intestine. What is the cylinder of the Armen reactor? Actually, in the large point of view, this is the again repetitive model of the transformation of representation actually of movement of snake. But how you see, this is the long movement through the vector of longitudinous, the movement around the center like a spiral. The same movement have our DNA. Also, the same movement have our intestines. If you compare the tupi inside of that shape, this is the our villa inside of our intestines. And when they move, they make that kind of vortex movement inside of the whole of the small intestine. This is the one part of the movement. Second one, this is the second video. This is the infinitive model of representation of movement with 64 parts. And how you see this 3D model, what kind of shape will reach finally. Okay, yeah, this is the shape like close to the vortex, just beginning to organize the vortex, and then you close the vortex, the beginning of spiral and the end of the spiral. And if you remember from the previous slide, you saw that the whole inside of our intestines have the same shape like a spiral, which is start from the beginning from our esophagus and will end actually to the end of our large intestines. But it is the same repetitive model in our small intestines. So we have in the wall of our intestines different kind of directions of movement during the two different vectors. And if you remember where our BZ face in that star formation, you will be not surprised why we have that kind of movement inside of wall of our intestines. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is just two videos of the peristaltic wave inside of our digestive system. The first one is the modeling of that peristaltic wave. So actually the peristaltic waves start from our pharynx. If you remember the previous workshop, they begin through our esophagus, then stomach, then duodenum, small intestines, large, and to the end. Just notice how the movement of the wall just go on. Part by part, you have the wideness and the narrowness of the wall. And if you remember when we spoke, we need that because it makes gradient between two parts. And after our explanation go on, you will understand why. Okay, on the right video, this is the natural view of the peristaltic wave inside of our intestines during the operation. Yeah, this is still the 3D modeling. On the right side video, this is the real video of the peristaltic wave inside of our intestines. And how you see, they have specific movement. And if you compare that movement with the movement of snake, this is completely the same. So that comparison you are able to see in the next slide with the 3 videos of the movement of snake. Actually, our intestines represent the movement of snake because the locomotion of snake is actually so complicated. This is not that much simple how we think. The first video is the real snake and how this real snake just move. How you see this is the slightly sliding on the superface, but actually this is sliding, it is not sliding. You will understand in the 3D model videos. This is because of some other mechanism. Because if you put the snake in the completely flat superface or to put liquid in that superface, she will be not able to move that like that. Okay, this is the 3D model of the move of snake. And if you compare with the previous video, you have the same movement in our intestines. Completely the same. And how you see, one part of the snake touch the superface, other one is so far away. This is actually, if we compare with other modeling of the Kiev technology, this is like you gain the gravity, gap. You gain the gravity, gap. Where you touch, where the snake touch.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 20th Cash Health Teaching Workshop. I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and today the subject material will be the small intestine, the way of AC to DC, and vice versa. And we'll have Dr. Elia Kostova of the Spaceship Institute will be describing to us the anatomy of the small intestine. And after that, Mr. Kesh will give his talk on the plasmatic aspects of the small intestine, how it interacts with our body. Okay, I think we'll just get right into the workshop here and allow Dr. Elia to describe to us some of the inner secrets of the small intestine. Are you there, Elia? Hello, we're not hearing you yet. Elia, is the microphone on there? I'm not able to hear you, Elia. Hello, Elia. Let me see if... Hello, Elia. Can you try again? All right. Can someone else give me a sound check from these?
I'm here.
Okay,
I don't see Elliot typing or anything, but she's still on the call, so I'm not sure what is happening there.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That works.
Okay, she's typing. Elia, you might need to drop out and come back in, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, thank you. We hear you. Yay.
Okay.
It must have been that AC/DC that threw us off in the start there. It's a little too heavy for
Your
everyone.
workshop is so powerful. AC/DC, everyone of you, I know, guys, you like this band. So today we follow with AC/DC in our body, and actually, Eastern Distract 2 is like the famous song of this band. And we start with the small intestines, the main converter of AC to DC, and vice versa. And our small intestines, they place in the abdomen cavity, how you know, and then belongs to the star formation inside of abdomen cavity. This is the first slide, yes. And their nano-coated vibe in this star formation between the star formation is organized between the liver, stomach, spleen, output system, pancreas, and the end of the large intestines. Actually, the small intestines, they are nano-coated vibe inside of that star formation. And the vector of movement of that star formation, what we call the BZ, is faced up to right to left, and most movement inside of that star formation, how you saw in the previous workshop, they're also turning, spinning on the direction of right to left. Okay, and then we go to the next one slide. The next one slide is embryology of our small intestines. They origin from the mid gut of embryo. And if you remember from the previous workshop, of the same gut is come from our stomach, but from higher gut. Our small intestines come from the mid gut. And from the beginning, and how you see, they start to make some kind of loops, AC to DC. Now, the same model we have inside of the wall of our small intestines. Okay, we go ahead with the next one slide. The next one slide is the cross section of our intestines and the longitudinal section. How you see, there are nano-coated tubes with different kind of layers. We have again repetitive model with layering on the wall with the connective tissue, different kind of direction of the muscle layers. Then we have epithelium and the layer of the vessels and nerves. And inside what you see on the left corner, this is the flow of the liquid state of matter. The cross section, you see again the repetitive model of the picture of principal matter, transitional matter, and the outer core of the main picture of Mr. Cash and the representation of different state of matter. This is a repetitive model all over our body. And also how you see on the left side, on the cross section of the intestines, inside epithelium make different kind of shapes. And also this is regarding the epithelium cells and the different kind of shapes of the small structure of the wall of epithelium of the wall. This is the villi. Actually, during our intestines, we have different shape of villas. And the villas, this is the absorption place where all the nutritions go inside of the wall of small intestines. From the beginning, from duodenum to the end of the small intestines, also we have different diameter of the small intestines and ability of them to make different kind of shapes during the peristaltic wave. Okay, so we have nano-coated vibe, our small intestines, and this nano-coated vibe have all the layers of the state of matter, and also they are able to make different kind of shapes during the peristaltic wave. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a more schematic view, and I thanks a lot to one of the followers of Cash Foundation, but actually the more technical pictures is from him, and he made before years. So I asked him to use because they're so good representation of the layering of the wall of intestines. How you see the first one comparison. This is the picture of the different layers inside of the wall, like a long section of the small intestines vibe. And on the more technical point of view, you see how each layer is containing different layering inside, how he represent in his 3D model of layering. On the right side, you see the cross section of the small intestines, and how you remember from the previous workshop, we have a vortex movement inside of our small intestine, exactly how the black hole do and suck the energy inside. We have the same movement inside of our intestines and make inside of them the movement of the state of matter in vortex from top to the bottom. And actually, again, so good is the representation 3D model of the same author. How you see, if you compare the picture of the small intestines, they represent only the hole inside of the small intestines. But if you put in mind that wall of the small intestine also nano layering, this is the same representation that like his 3D model of the layering like a hole. I just make that comparison to be more easy for you, like technical minds, to understand how our body have the same structure of layering and to make a vortex, same repetitive model. And if you remember the previous workshop, we compare the working of our digestive system like a black hole and gaining the gravity inside. So today we'll be make slightly different analogy for our small intestines and different kind of movement inside of nature. Okay, then we go to the next slide. This is actually two videos. They are 3D models of different kind of movement of matter. The first one video is the superface. It is gaining the gravity. It is heavy place, so touching the superface. Where it is far away from the superface, this is the gap. So what does mean? Where you have one cell to gain the gravity, and other way, and other one, next one, gap, where actually gain the repulsion magnetism. And that's why you are able to have a vector of currency between the gravity and repulsion, like two next cells to each other. In the same way, the snake move. In one place where the snake gained the gravity inside of the body, touching the superface. The next one, how you see, this is completely opposite movement. This is nothing, empty place, not touching the superface. The same way our intestines move. Okay, and when you see the video with the 5 snake inside, this is like several loops of our intestines, how they move all the time. This is not only one part of our intestines moving. They move all the time. There are 7 meters, and all these 7 meters, they move. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is actually representation of shape of snake. and how the snake is able to move, and also have a kind of snake, they are able to fly, and have a snake, they're able to swim, and how it's possible if they have the same shape and that shape support them to move on the solid surface, and how they change the shape to be able to swim and to be able to fly also. And how you see in the middle of that slide the shape of our intestines, they are like a snake. And also when the passages of liquid state of matter pass through all the shape and all the longitudinous of our intestines, actually in some particular places we gain the gravity, we gain the matter, the same way how the snake move. Also you see the snake are able, because of the shape of the ribs, to change the cross section of the body. And when the snake change the cross section of the body, that shape, regarding that shape, she is able to pass through different state of matter. So she is able to pass through air, and also she is able to pass through water. This is only because she is able to change the cross section, the shape of her body. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is this video representation, actually how a snake is able to fly.
There are 5 species of snakes in the Malaysian jungles that are able to transform their skeletons to glide through the air. A study has revealed exactly how these gliding snakes contort their bodies to cover a great deal of ground. When it leaps off a high tree branch, it rotates its ribs forwards and upwards, making its body double in width. This transforms it into a much flatter, aerodynamic shape, similar to an airplane wing. It moves its head back and forth, which passes waves down its body like it's swimming in air. Professor Jake Sosha carried out the study by creating a plastic copy of the snake's cross-section and placed it in a tank of flowing water and gathered data on the way the water moves around it using lasers and high-speed cameras.
Okay, and how you see saw during that video, what they say that when the snake changes shape, and how you saw the previous slides, exactly the shape is of the star formation, when from the round shape become like a shape of star formation, and then the snake is able to move during the air because she changed the gravity in different place during her body, change the mass. So what she done actually, she make a gapping between the mass, gravity, and the repulsion, magnetism. And because she is able to do that, because she's changing the shape of the body, she is able to pass to different kind of matter. So what does mean?